like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for August 1st, 2023 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attendance roll call.
Commissioner Groff.
Here.
Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Kubaki.
Here.
Commissioner Gazana is absent. Commissioner Buckmaster.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Mayor Petfolsky.
Here.
Darren Chesbutowski.
Here. We have a quorum. Statement of public notice.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Friday, July 28th.
All right. Public hearing, we have none. Consent business, Resolution PC 045-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Clifford's Automotive Repair, Inc., located at South 83 West 18576 Saturn Drive, tax key number 2223.004, and Resolution PC 047-2023, approval of a one-lot certified survey map for Jeff Coney, located at West 200 South 7203 Williams Drive, tax key number 2190.999.008.
Move to approve and gross.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Old business for consideration, Resolution PC 033-2023, approval of a rustic structure designation for Brian Wren, located at South 99 West 20523 Parker Drive, TX key number 2280.999.021. This is on the floor and deferred. Adam, anything new to update us with?
Yeah, so the applicant did submit an updated email to city, which was provided in your packets, kind of giving some further additional clarity on what they were asking for and their reasoning behind it. So like I said, that was included in your packets. As part of that notation, they did note that they, wanted to keep the bulk of the buildings, but they did state that they would potentially be willing to remove the Milk House building, which is shown on the plan here. There's two items that are circled on your map on the screen, as well as the southernmost addition to the main historic barn. Regarding the use of the buildings, the two buildings being sought for the rustic structure designation are currently used for ag purposes and some personal storage, including lawnmowers, tractors, lumber, and other domestic storage. The pole barn garage, approximately 30 feet south of the house, is not being sought for the rustic structure status and is being used for personal items as well, and is used on a daily basis, boats, snowmobile, four-wheeler, etc. The petitioner would ultimately like to keep all the buildings together, as he believes that they all together tell the story of the history of the farm and the buildings. The petitioner would be willing to plant a line of trees along the southern side of the subdivision as a visual barrier to the residences to the south. Removing the addition to the main barn, which is about 583 square feet, and the small shed, 319 square feet, which again are those two that are circled on the map, would bring the total accessory structure size to 12,093 square feet, or 7,896.82 square feet over the limit without the rustic structure designation.
All right, thank you. Does the petitioner have anything to add since last meeting?
I'm Brian Wren. I am the owner of the barns. You guys all know me from the other times, but for people that are here, they get to know me and will hear me now. A little nervous right now. I don't do this as a normal to come out here, but I had just a couple notes and a question actually, because I had gone through some of the meetings, and I basically would like to direct it a little bit at Adam, just to say, in the Park and Recs meeting, were these structures considered rustic structure?
That's not a call for them to make. They give a recommendation to this board on if they think this board should approve your request. So they did give a positive recommendation to this board.
Okay. All right. I just trying to feel that out. I mean, There's just a lot of things I could tell you about it, but I mean, my reasoning, especially, is obviously they're very structurally strong. You guys, the city, had an inspector come out, check all the buildings for the structure being strong, safe, roofs good, windows good, as mentioned. You'd mentioned, Adam, I was listening to that earlier Parks meeting on the YouTube, and you mentioned that there were other ones in Muskego that had applied for this rustic structure, and they had some rougher windows, this and that. I've got a couple sideboards, and that's about it. Everything I've kept up on, and this being a historic site, I feel it qualifies for every single thing in your rustic structure definition. I mean, as far as the historical materials and labor being done on this and used, the historical architecture, the construction and design of this, everything, the local historical significance. To me, it mattered because I cared, and for the people that don't know, and the younger people here that don't know Wayne Salentine, he was the mayor from 1982 to 1993. I loved hearing his stories. I used to have him sit on the side. I'm not going to get too far out of whack here, but I used to have him sit on the side of the stoop with me and talk to me and tell me about all these stories. And to think it goes back to 1936 when he was born at that house. He was born in a hospital, but I even asked him that question, came back. And so he told me stories of in the barn and when they get the phone. And I would love to put this all in writing. And I think somebody had asked me about that at one of the past meetings about possibly putting up a plaque and maybe doing more of a historical write-up on this. I'd be more than happy to give every bit of information that I have and, explain this. Like I said, another thing I have here is that they're structurally safe. Everything is upright and as solid as can be, not falling over. They're older, but they're strong. I maintained them. All the farmers in the area told me, you put the roofs on, you got something decent, solid, it's going to last you forever. I put tens and tens of thousands of dollars into it. I get the dollars don't mean anything, but structurally and safe and looking decent, that's what they are.
So last meeting, you had mentioned pretty much everything you're talking about now, and
Okay.
There is an uneasiness from this commission to approve it as is. Mainly, I'm not going to speak for the commissioners, they can speak for themselves, but some of the things that came up were, for one, you knew that before you subdivided your land, when you were in compliance, that if you subdivided your land, that you would either have to take down this building or get this designation. And the question came up of why you didn't try getting a designation before you subdivided your land.
Honestly, my answer to that is I felt that everything qualified, and all these things that is mentioned within that definition.
So then why wouldn't you, if you felt it qualified, why wouldn't you have gone first?
Because that in itself, doing the division was overwhelming. Running, my business, and I've got a storage business down south out of here, and some rentals, and trying to do that step at a time. I actually, one of the people, part of the planning committee, actually suggested, wow, I can't believe you're going to take on all this at once. I got other land that I was looking at doing something with in Muskego, and it made me think. And I stepped back, and he made sense to me. And I'm like, I'm going to stress myself out. A little more personal, but that's my reason. Why didn't I do that at the time? I really didn't think it was going to be, I understand the largeness of the buildings is a big thing, but I thought if it qualifies for each and everything, and then to show you the people of the commission here that we're all representing the city of Muskego, that you're going to do the best for them. And then I wanted to show you the petition that every single person down Parker Drive, 100% of the people want to see the buildings. And I know there's people here today, a lot of them, that want to tell you that as well.
So, another issue, which I still think you should have gone first on this. I don't know if anyone wants to add on that.
Absolutely.
But the other issue that came up on it was, okay, so you subdivided your land. By right, each of those property owners are able to put up a home, a garage, and like a pole barn. So now you have, how many lots are there?
Six, seven new lots, I think,
So
seven.
seven lots, so you could have
It's six
seven
additional.
additional pole barns, 7 additional homes, and 7 additional garages, all in that same area, which, and then now plus all the structures you want to keep. That's a lot of density for that area. I mean, one of the things we hear most about this in this community, at least I hear, you know, as we get development, is we're getting too dense. We're getting too dense. Well, this is something that it plays right to
Does
that.
that really compare to these small subdivisions with a 3-acre lot and concrete and a little shed
But our
out back?
comp plan
What?
allows, that's how we do
That-
planning. Like this area is dense, this area
Because
is
we
open.
got a lot of big areas. The field tile all works properly. It flows out. I went through rigorous back and forth with engineering to make sure everything is pitched out of that land and swaled out and all these, everything flows like no tomorrow. As you say, the density, right? We're talking about roofs and impervious areas, right? But there's a lot of pervious areas, lots, way more than, where you have a lot of these subdivisions, these smaller lots, and I get it, they're supposed to flow off and this and that, and you got retention ponds, whatever, but this wide open, you have field tile that work, they are functioning. I mean, the land drains out. There's 6 lots, okay, and then mine is the 7th, so that's the land. So it'd be 6 additional houses, and they're 2% being brand new, right? Brand new house, brand new, lots, not old, rustic, old, I believe, being here in Muskego since 1978, I'm class of 1982, Muskego, I love it. I believe we should stand behind this. Of course, because I own the farm, of course. But you know what? Give anybody else an opportunity that has decent buildings to do that. What do we have left that's history? Look at, I don't know how long you've been here, Rick. I'm directing because you're asking me questions directly, but look at what's gone already. I mean, we got a few barns here and there hidden, as Spirit of 76 barn, which is behind Syndic over there. And, mine is in absolutely great condition. To take it down, it's got the history. And like I said, I don't remember who I mentioned, somebody had about plaque, historical write-up. Let's keep it part of our history. I know some of the people think this. I know you guys can see in your hearts to do this. I understand your logic and what you guys are up there for. And I appreciate that. All the shysters out there, you're weeding all those people out. I'm not trying to sneak around and do anything. I want to bring it all right to light,
Does any of the commissioners have any questions? Or?
Well, I concur with the mayor that this should have been done first. I mean, the historical significance of this structures and stuff should have been done first. Simple solution is retain lots 1, 2, and 3, and retain that other parcel along Madison Court, and that would solve a problem.
I know this doesn't concern you, and it shouldn't, because it's me personally. I got a huge loan out on this, and I don't know what I'd do then. I'm 59, and this is part of my retirement to try to make I'm asking higher amounts. I won't be able to sell them for a while because I have crazy amounts into it right now. The engineering, everything, and what had to happen to be done with the soils and extra, it cost me lots more than I thought. It's okay. I understand that's your job to make sure everything works right for that. Why didn't I do ahead? Like I said, I thought with everything qualifying, we could still approach the council or the planning commission here and say, look, this is still the same thing before time or at the end. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I really don't.
Well, it would have certainly ended a lot of headaches for everyone to do this, before you did all the subdividing. So I understand your motive. You bought the land, you're selling it off, you can make a profit on it, and now you want the best of both worlds.
It's not what you think for profit. I wouldn't have done it in hindsight, but I be just because of the numbers. But it is what it is, and I'm already there on that. But it's still the same argument, the same buildings. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to really say other than, see what's there, preserve the history. Know that their strong buildings aren't going to fall down. The density of that, the square footage of my buildings and these 6 other pole barns and stuff, we have so much lot space left at 2.75 acres up to 3.3, which are the sizes that I have within that range. There's a lot of absorbent land in there. Plus it pitches, goes back to the retention ponds, plus it goes through the field tile underneath. I just don't see that is going to be the problem. I've lived there for 23 years, you know. When a field tile broke, you could see it. When they're working, just experience of being there, you know. I mean.
Any other thoughts or comments from the commission?
I guess my thoughts are because we did defer and we asked for you to reconsider. And the two buildings that you have proposed to be raised is a pretty trivial amount in the square footage, just by the square footage basis. So from my perspective, I follow with the alderman and the mayor myself, is that all of this should have been done as a grand plan and not at the end. Because to be honest with you, the historical value of the barn is appropriate to be discussed. Whether it ever materializes in anything more than a historical value, you can claim that. I question. So I think your proposal was weak. I really do. And I don't know necessarily that I have an idea as to what you could come back with. But for us to go forward and not put this into its exception bucket, we have to recognize that there's all the future that comes about, whether it be a historical building or another consideration when it comes down to the city requirements for square footage as it relates to the percentage of roof space. We have to think forward of that, not afterwards. And you've told us now, I've made all these plans, now after the fact, approve it. And it just doesn't make logical sense to me. So my opinion is I'd prefer to kick it back at you and have you rethink it again rather than vote for it.
What are you proposing?
Well, I think you need to take a bigger chunk. And I don't know what you have in those barns. I mean, I saw the pictures and I've driven by a number of times. And so I'm not looking to go inside. I appreciate the fact that they're old buildings. I've been in a lot of old barns, my own family's old barns, my wife's barn. No, I've done all of that. And I love them kind of historically, but they've all been sold off years ago. And where they are now, I really don't know. But I look at that L-shaped barn, the main barn, and said, I don't know which picture went with what structure, but I also look at the barn itself, the main barn, which is the longest axis barn, and say, that's significant. That's a significant structure. If you came forward and said, I'm going to crop off the structure that goes, I think it'd be southeast, really like southeast, I'd say, you made a commitment. It's going to cost you some money. You have to make the modifications to the structure so it doesn't fall down. That's a commitment. What I saw is not much of a commitment. Two small buildings. Skidster probably knocks them over and takes them away. So I think, my opinion, show me something more. And I don't know what it is, but show me something more.
When did these have to be down by?
I think it was a year from when the CSM was recorded, which was last fall. I want to say November, but I'd have to double check the exact date. It was in the fall of last year.
Jeremy?
Well, I drove out there and took a look at it. Right now, it looks great, right? It fits cornfield in front of it, house next to it. Everything looks architecturally great. I envision it 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, and it starts to look like a barn next to an apartment building on Janesville Road, and it starts to become more and more inappropriate. I mentioned last time, if this was part of the development thought, that would have been a pretty strong approach. It seems to me that maybe it could have still been that way, working with your neighbors to make this farm and barns part of that neighborhood. Might be a hard sell to our planning.
Doesn't that cost them money? Kind of like a playhouse that they'd all have to keep up on maintenance.
And it would take levels of planning, and it would take changing subdivision ordinances, and now you have a bunch of neighbors that you have to get to buy into it. And yeah. Up front, it would have been a little bit easier, right? I agree with the mayor's comments, especially the first. The density, I more lean with you on the density. This is more rural still. It's still less dense. But over time, we're going to see that continue to change. We all see the community changing and growing, and everyone's selling off their land and subdividing it. And I guess right now, this just seems like too much building to keep on that site. And so I do agree with the comments too about I could support you coming back with a little bit more on this site to come down now. And we talked last time about the idea of maybe letting some of this go, but placing limits on it with timelines. Because again, we're going to look 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. I mean, this is going to continue to change. You made the
comparison of the one up the road off of Janesville. I think by Bushy's Pub, a little bit west of there.
There's one by Bushy's, right?
Yeah.
There's actually 3 on Janesville Road, right?
But when we're talking about density and such, and where these apartment buildings, isn't that really close though? Like, I'm like,
it is.
Where somebody would build probably 300 feet from there.
That's why I agree with you.
And the swales and all.
I'm going to say it again. I agree with you on the density, right?
Okay.
We have barns in more dense areas through the city, right? Whether they're appropriate now as the city has grown, I think that's a big question. And I don't think we're saying knock down every barn out here. That's not what we're saying. But you have a lot of square footage, and it doesn't meet the code. And now you're coming in and you're asking to break all the rules. Make an exception for me. And then we do that for you, and then the next person comes in, and why can't I put up a big barn in my yard? And why can't I keep this? And why can't I keep that?
Right? I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, sir. I don't mean that at all. No disrespect.
Go ahead.
But that's why we have rustic structure zoning. Right? This clause, this exception that says, look, if with all the, this, that, everything that says that it has to be, then the square footage means what? It shouldn't mean anything, right? And the other thing you said that with that much gap, it won't look like we're condensed. And you mentioned on Janesville Road. I'm on Parker, 3/4 of a mile out there. And I develop big lots, 3-acre lots, 2.75 to 3. So that's it. There's no one more going to go in. You know what I mean? They're going to be that 300 feet away or whatever, at 200 at the very closest if they really want to build back by the barn. But that's a big difference. That's a good distance. And that's why I thought, okay, well, that shouldn't be, like what you're saying. I get it. And then they start getting bad and nobody cares. This would be left up to the, I'm not going to live forever. So, they have to stay with the property, right? I would think that, make sure that, and if they screw up, you guys have checks every year or 5 or whatever you want to do. And they're not doing it just like a house. Somebody lets their house go, you have busted windows, holes in the roof. It's time, man. You're not keeping up, right? So I know what you're saying. I want Muskego to look, I've seen, since 1978, this place has changed. A lot. And I love it just to see, buildings like that. I can appreciate that because of my age, and then, of course, that I have it. And I've always tried to put all the money into make somebody like this committee say, look, I'm proud of what you did. Well, I'll give you the grant for that. So look, a reward, I guess, but it's reward to the whole city that they can see it. And again, it's not going to be crowded and that barn is 500 feet from the road. It will always be 500 feet from the road. no road's gonna come in closer that it's gonna be mushed in, you know? That was, it was a density thing. Again, just
Yeah.
explain a little bit further. Not trying to argue with you. I don't mean that. I just.
No, it's
my-
not an argument,
my
it's an
thought on
open
it.
discussion, an open
Okay.
forum, and you're up here, you know, no, not at all. I just come back to the idea that this is, you have a lot, you're asking for a lot of building, and it's at our judgment at this point. And we have to make sound decisions for planning as we move forward in the community. And there's a reason why it got deferred, right? This is a tough decision for all of us. We don't want to, I think we all believe in liberty and being able to do what you want on your property, right? That we all believe that strongly. And I don't think anyone up here wants to push people around and tell them what to do. But at the end of the day, this whole thing and this whole committee and the whole community is formed to keep bounds on things. You know, you had a gentleman come up last time and he spoke, right? And he was one of your neighbors and he was against it, right? And he said, so, I mean, we have to respect other people's opinions and value what happens with them as well.
My only thought towards that is, if you're deemed rustic structure, if you're deemed industrial, you can't say, well, geez, I gotta look at all those, that's the industrial park. You
So
won't be
if I
next to
put a
industrial.
coal plant up in your backyard, that would be, I don't want to get into this debate,
No,
but
I
you know
don't
where,
mean
you know where
I'm
we're
just
going
saying,
here.
you know, right,
And we
that's-
talked last time about the idea that, you know, great, you maintain your barn. Let's say you get a little bit older, you keep mentioning that. What happens when it starts becoming rat infested and raccoon infested? You know, your neighbors are going to find that you know, they want to have some chickens in the yard, but no, all the raccoons come and kill them and all these other things. And it's all because of your property that's not being kept up, right? So, I mean, I don't think that it's realistic for this property to have that many buildings, that much square footage anymore. You've broken it down to a smaller footprint. And so the buildings need to come with that.
Okay, I understand. No, please, I don't mean to argue with you, just figure out the point between
Any
the two
other
of us,
commissioners
right?
have anything more to add? So, I mean, it was mentioned by, I think, Commissioner Groff. I mean, we deferred this to kind of give you an option to come back with some proposals that might make it more enticing for us, because you weren't there. And your offerings of the milk house and the little attachment to the barn is what you came back with. And, you know, I just don't, okay, I didn't see that sway the commission at all. We have two options here. I mean, we can just vote on this now and make a decision. We can leave it open until November when you have a year to take it down. Keep it on, we'll just defer it. And if you have some grander idea, come back with some change, we can leave it at that. You know, so what's the commission feel like doing at this
Well,
point?
I think the most significant structure is the main barn, without the L going to the southeast. If that stayed, I mean, I could live with that, but the other buildings would have to go along with the L that goes to the southeast.
And you'd still be, I mean, even if we kept the barn with the L and got rid of the pole barn and the grain shed and those two other structures, you'd still be over. But I think that's a significant change that I think, you know, you might persuade a couple of us, myself included. But just coming forward and saying, you know, I want my cake and eating it too, without going through the process you probably should have done before you subdivided this. It's a tough sell.
How about, can they talk to at public
I'm
hearing?
not going to turn this into a public hearing.
Yeah.
1 minute.
1 minute, yeah. I'm Jeff Scholbe. I live in the neighborhood, grew up in the neighborhood. I enjoy seeing the barn as well. It seems to me like, as impartial as I am, I didn't talk to him before this at all. I just came on his behalf. I enjoy the barn as well, driving down Parker. I will say, I would agree with all of you that he probably should have did this beforehand. If that's your only complaint, the answer shouldn't be to tear down the barn. The answer should be, I'll give you another scenario. If you have a resident in the city who does something without a permit, what's the process?
Essentially, we want compliance. And I know where you're going with this, and I understand that. I think the reason we wanted him to go through asking for this first, because I think if he's as passionate about this barn as he seems to be, and I don't question that at all, I doubt he'd go through with the land division the way he did.
Okay. I think that's his right. Anyone in the city could have bought that land and did the same thing. He had
not
the
come back
foresight to
and
do
ask
it.
for it, right.
But my whole point is, if somebody were to pull a permit or not pull a permit and do something, I don't know, finish off a basement or something, what would the process be? You'd probably fine them and you'd probably increase their taxes. Why can't you do the same thing here? Not that he's not going to like me saying that, but why does the answer have to be tear down the building? Why can't you find a different amicable solution that says, okay, taxes go to this and we're going to assess you some fine?
Thank you.
Taxes isn't the answer.
No, it's
That's
not.
not the answer.
Could I say just one more? Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, well,
I didn't see that, Harold, I'm sorry.
yeah, I spent almost entire life here in Muskego, 95 years. It's a wonderful place to live. I served many years on the Common Council, Planning Commission, School Board, many other committees. I served with a dedicated group of individuals making Muskego a good place to live. We always considered what the majority of people wanted when making a decision, not what one person wanted or what the rules said in different conditions. The barn should not be torn down for the following reasons. I believe 99% of the people in the area do not want the barn torn down. The barn is in excellent condition. Barns are disappearing in our community by themselves as they become out of condition. We don't have to force barns to come down. And they disappear, they have not a useful life anymore. This barn is used to support agricultural in our community and support ag families in our community. People outside our community and in Muskego, when driving around, like to see a well-kept barn in the country. We do not have to force people to take down barns. That'll happen by itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBeck.
Well, there's a couple of things that we can do tonight. One is to vote on this, and I don't think you're going to like the outcome of that. The second is to rework your plan, come back with a much, much stronger plan than just two smaller buildings. Something that the city can live with, something that you can live with, something a community can live with. Those are the two options.
The only other thing that I would try to add to that, and granted, we as a community don't do this too often. Adam, I think you had mentioned 3 others or something, rustic structure people.
Yeah, I think 3.
Okay.
And those were the percentage over the, can you give us an idea of how those were?
No, and I can think in one case, it was the only outbuilding on the property. And it wasn't, I don't remember how much over, but it wasn't significantly over, but it was the only outbuilding. So they were keeping the only one that was there. So that was their personal garage and everything. I can think of another one. I'm trying to think where they were. None of them were significantly over, and I know in numerous scenarios they were the only outbuilding. I think there was one that had another outbuilding or so, but this was definitely by far the first one. This was this large over, and that's one of the things that when Brian approached us, is one of the first things we talked about was being such a difference from the past. I always like to give people when they come into our office examples of, oh, here's what happened last time, right? That's always good for people to understand. We haven't had a ton of these, but the ones that we talked about were definitely very different than this, just when you looked at how much was remaining that wasn't rustic, versus how much, a lot of those cases, they were like a little bit over the limit with their combined buildings. So this is different than those, but that doesn't, I guess, change the request at all.
So I think what I'm going to ask, but before I ask for this thing to be tabled, because you have a few months yet before this thing has to come down anyway, so there's no reason for us just to say no right now if you can come back with something. I'm gonna throw out a few suggestions. I'm not sure where the rest of the commission is on this. And one was, like I've already mentioned, get rid of the other outbuildings on your property. That's one option. Keep one of your lots. It still wouldn't get you in compliance, but I think that might be enough. Maybe, I'm not sure what the exact size of the other adjoining lots are. Maybe take portions of it and add it onto your property. There has to be more into it than what you're presenting right now. We don't want to take down the barn either. I mean, I said that at the first meeting. We're not making more of them. My family, you ask my family, I'm a herd and a Schweitzer. The Crumwire farm was one of the first ones in this whole area.
Where was this?
Where the middle school is essentially, but the Schweitzer farm. So, I mean, I have ties to this community going back to the 1800s. I don't like seeing barns taken down either, but this proposal, it's too hard for the commission and myself, the way it is right now, to take. You have options, and I'm going to give you the benefit of not asking for a vote tonight, provided I can get a motion in a second, just to table this, and we'll just keep it tabled until, the date we have to make a call on it. But if you come back with something, you do. If you don't, we'll just defer it to the next meeting. It's not, and it's not. This isn't an opportunity to come and try to, sell this on us on a proposal. You need to come back with some real change on it if you want this to happen. So give you some time to think about it. Give you some time to plan. But I don't think you'd like the answer if we had to give you one today. So with that, can I get a motion?
I have a motion to defer.
I second.
All those in favor of the motion to defer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's deferred indefinitely until we come back.
Okay.
Moving on with new business, Resolution PC 046, 2023, approval of a building site and operation plan for Lagrangia, located at South 65, West 14523 Janesville Road, South 67, West 14543 Janesville Road, and South 67, 14549 Janesville Road, and the adjoining tax key numbers. We're just going to not take this up because we were informed last night that the petitioner, while had an accepted offer for this building, was bumped because there was a secondary offer made, so they got bumped out. So instead of doing anything, we're not going to bring it up and move on.
Yep, we'll just skip this number in our number scheme and continue from there.
Miscellaneous business, the September Plan Commission meeting has changed from the first meeting in September to the second, so it'll be September 12th. So hopefully that can meet your schedules. We had to do some moving around.
September plan is moved to the second week, not the first.
Yeah.
And council's first and third.
Oh, don't look at me like that.
I'm good.
All right. Any other miscellaneous business? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned at 6:38.